Aloha, como esta? Greetings from Ontario. Hello and welcome to World Building Essentials and Exercises. Today, we're not exactly doing our favorite hobby here, but it's adjacent. If you plan on using dragons, you saw the title, didn't you? If you plan on using dragons in your world building, in a dragon heavy world building campaign, you're going to need to think about tactics. Now, you're probably an experienced DM and you know how to run dragons, but as always, I am here to just add one little bit of inspiration to your already amazing plan. My name is Lewis Nichols, and I've been DMing for 30 years. 2025 minus 1980. Oh, damn. It's 40 years. 40 years. Oh, my knees hurt just thinking about it. Or maybe it's going to rain. This could be a long video, everybody, so grab a snack, dig in, get ready to enjoy. Enjoy the show. Enjoy the insanity. We're going to talk about these encounters in the context of a world where dragons might have some familiar connections, but there is no big interconnected mechanism of dragon alliances. In other words, taking on an adult dragon might draw some attention from the relatives, but you're not going to suddenly be taking on the entirety of dragonkind. Now, does that mean that the dragon's not going to have allies? Of course not. All powerful beings have friends, adversaries, and allies. But if you take on a dragon in the scenarios that we're talking about, you can do it without worrying about all the uncles, aunts, and cousins of the dragon swooping in to track you down. All right, let's dive into our first example. We're going to be talking about Nerfy, the suckler of icicles. White dragon wormlings are CR2. They have 32 hit points if you use the average, but you are totally justified in giving yours less or more, but probably not more than 50. That is where the raw maximum lies. They have a decent AC of 16. They strike twice at +4, hitting for an average of 6 slashing and 2 cold. That would give them a maximum of 12 if you roll. Finally, their breath does 22 points of cold damage on a failed save. It's a DC 12 save in a 15-foot cold. Max on a breath weapon is 40 if you roll or just want more damage, because you're the DM. Do what you want. CR2 is geared toward a medium difficulty fight for 4 second level characters, but low levels can be super swingies with few, if any, safety nets, so there are lots of ways this fight can go. Doing a little math here, at second level, a barbarian is probably going to have 23 hit points, a fighter 20, a wizard 10, and everybody else somewhere in between. Hence, a failed save on a breath attack drops pretty much everybody. On the flip side is damage taken. If everybody does 10 points of damage to the dragon, the fight's over in a hurry. This is possible, but maybe a little bit of a stretch. The marshals have to be able to engage and hit. If they expend full resources with action surges, it certainly helps. But if I'm a dragon, I'm not going to let them engage in round 1. Odds are pretty good the dragon can attack from ambush. Strict rules as written, that's advantage on its initiative and disadvantage for the PCs. It flies in from 30 feet out, moves to 15 feet, breathes on 2 or 3 party members, and uses the rest of its fly speed to move back to 45 feet from the party, gaining a little bit of cover if it can. Now, unfortunately, baby whites are pretty dumb, so it probably will not target the spellcasters or the range users. If you want it to be a tough fight, keep it at range. But this little ice breather might want to brawl. Don't forget to check each round to see if its breath attack is back. Also keep in mind, the party might be on difficult terrain, ice or snow, hence giving the ice-walking dragon even more of a movement advantage. What about balance? You can use white wormlings for levels 1 through 4, I'd say. A 6-member group of experienced players with first level characters are probably going to win a fight, or at least fight to a draw, especially if they have good range. At second level or higher, you can use Mephits. Imagine using a Mephits fog cloud to hide the dragon right up to the last moment. These guys can run in groups, with up to 3 wyrmlings and some goblins making for a deadly fight against a 4th level group. 5th level, and you're probably going to reduce these glass cannons to cannon fodder. What are some of your unusual options for a fight like this? Well, you can make the dragon an object of negotiations with his parents. Maybe the party holds it for ransom, or maybe they have saved it from a pack of dragon hunters, or maybe even some ogres who wanted to eat it for dinner. In a dragon-heavy world, maybe a family of white dragons live up on the cliffs. The baby comes down to visit from time to time. It's like having a pet lion, but this little fellow is so cute. Oh, but the teeth. Then again, if you can get it to breathe into the root cellar from time to time, your meat is going to keep forever. What about a young adult? Bardin the Ice Dancer. Bardin is a young white dragon who lives on its own, but it's been known to run home if it gets itself in much trouble. He's a hunter with a taste for cave bears and furry rhinos. Young white dragons are CR 6. They have 123 hit points if you use average. They can range up to 182 by the book. They have an AC of 16. Remember, you can finesse that AC or any statistic with magic, skills, or just justifying it by natural variance. Young whites strike 3 times at +7, hitting for an average of 9 slashing and 2 cold. That would be a max of 14 if you roll it out. Finally, their breath potential increases significantly. It becomes an average of 40 cold damage on a failed DC 15 dex save in a 30-foot cone. That's a maximum of 72 points. CR6 is designed to be a moderate fight for 4 6th-level characters, but due to breath weapons and maneuver, dragons tend to punch above their weight class. That doesn't mean the party can't make 123 hit points melt like butter in the desert if they get first go. A fighter with Action Surge is probably going to hit 60 points of damage at this level. Probably pretty easily, could be even more. The Wizard is going to be able to pile on another 40, just on their own. And the other 2 characters can argue about who's going to kill steal. Flipping that wonderful coin of first action, the dragon lights up 3 or 4 members with a blast of cold. Mage down, cleric down, fighter laughs it off because, he's got Shield Master and that's what they do. Meanwhile, the rogue is stuck trying to stabilize the rest of the group. The fighter brawls for a round, exchanging half his health for a third of the fighters. Ultimately, the dragon loses this fight unless he can recharge his breath weapon in rounds 2 or 3. If the dragon has his way, he can and will initiate the attacks with a trick or a trap, maybe catch the party on a frozen lake or hit them with a timberfall trap. Bardin can do this because he's probably going to spot the party from a distance. Could be from a mountaintop or just above in the air. Even if the party spots him too, this becomes a much tougher fight because of the movement advantage. Let's talk about balancing again. If you ever want your group to take on a young white dragon before they technically should, haha, good for you. You can give the party advantage by starting things out with even initiatives. A PC or 2 will go first, the dragon will breathe or just run and circle back. It's already an even fight, so early damage is huge, but the dragon probably can't heal. Going the other way, white dragons and frost giants are a great combination. A giant or 2, or 12, softens the party from range, making them extremely vulnerable to aerial breath weapon attacks. Multiple dragons are always a force multiplier, more initial firepower, and more chance for a breath recharge. What are your options for making a memorable fight? Young whites are a great candidate for just a knockdown, drag-out fight. Throw them against a 5th level party to remind them that life is dangerous. You can build a battle map around one for a strong, not-so-random encounter. With a little backup, they're good all the way up past 10th level. Alternatively, they might know a particular mountain range better than any other living being. Now, they're not super smart, but they can work with you as a guide if you show them some patience. And maybe that's all they need to be your friend. One that might even come down and visit you on a whim right downtown in your local village, usually without warning the town guard. Eros Valos Uxumbala. Oh, what a name. Stole it right out of Fizban's. I absolutely love their name generator on page 34. Eros rules over a tribe of a few hundred gnolls on the lower slopes of Mount Lyn, right round about here. He has good relations with some of the frost giants farther up on the slopes. He even gets along with the local Volito down in the river valleys, and he allows them to maintain a small church to their mountain gods in his territory. For a small stipend, of course. Adult white dragons are CR13. They have 200 hit points if you use the average. If you want to get mean, max is going to be around 288. They have an AC of 18, but by this time, dragons are going to be getting some extra spells, some magical items. Maybe you give him a blur spell or a shield spell to buff up those attributes. They strike 3 times at plus 11, hitting for an average of 13 slashing and 4 cold. That's going to give you a max of 66 if you roll. Finally, their breath does 54 points of cold damage on a failed DC 19 dex save in a 60-foot cold. Cone. Cone. It's not a cold, it's a cone. That's going to be a max of 96 points. Adult dragons are no joke. This is where they pick up legendary resistances and actions. Speaking of those legendary actions, Freezing Burst is a long-range blast spell. It's out to 120 feet in a 30-foot radius. Victims take a little bit of damage, but on a failed save, they are frozen in place until the end of their next turn. Their second action, Frightful Presence. This is a little bit nerfed in 2024. Instead of all creatures in range, it's a casting of the Fear spell, which is a 30-foot cone with a DC 14 save. The victims only get another save at the end of their turns if they can break line of sight. I would say that the dragon is going to have to catch 3 targets to make this really worth it, but of course that's all highly situational. Finally, the dragon gets some extra movement and another rend of tack with its final legendary action. Whereas these first 2 actions can only be used once per round, this last one can be used all 3 times. That's another 40-ish points of damage if 2 out of the 3 hit. That's enough to pick off a wounded cleric or sorcerer. The dragon is still far better off fighting from range and using its movement advantage to pick off stragglers. Boiled down, the dragon is losing the race against a group of PCs. A 13th level fighter can do nearly 200 points of damage if they expend most of their resources. That's just in one round. Wizards are also doing big damage, and silvery barbs will force the dragon to quickly use up their legendary resistances. Alone, Eros is going to have to be opportunistic and avoid a fair fight entirely. It's not going to be above strafing runs around dinner time and another one in the middle of the night. It will attack with allies and minions if possible. Reckless dragons are dead dragons, and this guy did not live to adulthood by being honorable. Balancing. Dragons are social creatures, and even though your average adult white dragon only has an 8 intelligence, it also has a 12 wisdom and charisma. That's very functional in regards to making friends. You are also well within your rights as a DM to give them a feat or 2 and some special training. They are not stealthy by nature, but could have very well have found a way to pick up the skill and get their dex up to, say, a 12. They might even have expertise in stealth. They're still not competing with 13th level characters, but they only need to remain undetected out to about 100 feet. They can also be hiding under the ice of a frozen pond or buried in snowbanks. They are more than strong enough and bulky enough to blast up through the ice and make a round of attacks. The party won't just have to deal with the dragon, but the threat of falling into the freezing water. What are your options? Fighting an adult dragon is often more about just the dragon. With some prep, Eros can put together a band of Gnoll warriors backed up by a handful of frost giants. If harassed, he might even go through the local governments down in the valley and sue the party for damages and demand reparations for trauma. Imagine the party coming into town to go dragon hunting. They brag a little bit too much, and just as they're getting ready to leave for the mountains, they get a cease and desist letter warning them against going after Eros. Arothian, tyrant of the glacier. A Rothian's wingspan is 300 feet, and just being near him can give you frostbite. He has lived for 1,000 years and has a list of accomplishments as long as any adventurer. He's not a random beast, but a part of the world. He is feared, dangerous, and integral to the balance of things. His presence keeps the devils out of the north and the fire dragons confined to their lava pits. He controls the Straits of Nebliz, raiding the fishing fleets only once in the late summer and only if their tributes have fallen short. Without him, there would surely be war, as the southern powers would sail to make this wealthy trade route their own. Kill him if you can, gain the treasures of his frozen fortress, then watch true chaos result from his absence. A Rothian is CR20, but we all know by this level that doesn't mean anything. If he's average, he has 333 hit points, but is there really a such thing as an average ancient dragon? His max would be around 500. He has a natural AC of 20 and strikes 3 times at plus 14, hitting for an average of 17 slashing and 7 cold. Finally, his breath weapon does 63 points of cold damage on a failed DC 20 deck save in a 120-foot cone. Max on his breath is going to be 112. Ancients get 4 legendary resistances, or 5 in their lair. For me, lair is usually going to mean home territory, maybe a particular glacier or a high mountain valley. They also get the same 3 legendary actions, but they're better. A Rothian's Freezing Burst can do 24 points of damage. 14 is average. That's not that big a deal for 20th level. Not really a big deal at all. But that save is DC 20. That's going to freeze a lot of enemies in place and keep them out of melee. Frightening Presence. It's still just the fear spell, but the DC is now 18. Still very situational in its usefulness. Pounce is probably still the best. Plus 14 doesn't miss much, and an extra 75 points of damage per turn is a lot at any level. How do you balance this guy? How many of you have run at 20th level? I haven't. Just what I've learned from the 10th level plus range, DMs need to know their party and carry on appropriately. A Rothian is going to know your party's strengths and weaknesses. These are intelligent beings, they have resources, so they're going to be prepared. If you want a memorable fight without just throwing piles of minions at the party, you're going to have to maintain control of the action economy. Deny the party's ability to be effective. Force them to waste turns through restraints, obstacles, etc. Hit them with paralysis effects, force cages, and banishments. Even a 15th level party 1v1 against an ancient is a recipe for an unceremonious loss on the dragon's behalf. So don't hold back. High DC monsters should always be as unique as you can make them. These guys are special, and they need backstories. They need cool, unexpected tricks. Maybe your dragon is something of a warlock and has eldritch blasts for legendary action. Soup them up with some perks for extra effect. A red dragon might be a fighter hybrid, so give them second wind and action surge. After writing this, doing the research, crushing the numbers, I feel like white dragons make a good ranger analog, so a hunter's mark equivalent seems fitting. Giving them a good range attack could also fit as well, like subbing in a Ray of Frost for a Rend. Then there are all the things that might just fit into your world. For me, that's adding the diplomatic opponent. Taking on an old dragon probably means taking on its family, its whole fief, and probably a slew of allies. These guys are the equivalents of going after a high noble. So, you could do it, it just comes with added layers of complications. I am so glad that you could all join me today. I feel really good about this script, and I hope that it has helped you. Look, I know you guys know what you're doing. I said it earlier in the video. All I want to do is add one little piece of inspiration to your creative process. One last little word. I know this isn't politically correct for the gaming circles, but we're going to do it anyway. It's warming up outside. And yes, we've all chosen a game that requires a lot of sitting. But life could be a little bit fuller when the sun is in it. Now, don't overdo it. It is scary out there. But maybe just 10 or 15 minutes, go talk to a tree. Give it a little time. Interact with nature. Whether you do or don't, I appreciate you being here. If you could, give me a sub, hit the like button, make my day, and leave a comment. I hope that you guys all have a great rest of the day. Cheers.